in high school. My friend and I, both 17 mil, we'll call him Jay, frequented trails to go for smoke walks. On this fall afternoon, we went to a familiar trail in a moderately wooded area. One blunt into our walk, and an odd man comes onto our path. He startled us. He was middle-aged and plainly dressed, but I think he had some condition. He looked like a stocky Ethan Hawke with crazy eyes, and he spoke to us like a child. The childish man was rambling about hide-and-go-seek, frantically asking, "Have you seen two kids?" Jay and I were both puzzled. We took obvious note of the creepy man in the woods asking about kids, but we didn't know what to do or say. We ignored him and continued onto the trail to spark another. On our way back to the trail access, we see the childish man on the path, yet now with a tall, slim man. Jay urged me to get us out of there. Jay was already non-confrontational, and we both felt an eerie tension. Yet the whole thing was fishy, and I didn't want to regret doing nothing if some kids were at risk. I asked, "Why the hell is your friend asking about some kids?" They both give the same weird hide-and-go-seek with two kids answer. The tall man claimed to be the father. He was more with it than his childish companion, and he kept questioning my concern for his kids. The tall man was getting angry, veering on threatening. I had a bad gut feeling but decided to leave this whole weird encounter behind. Yet on our way out of the woods, we see a boy and a girl stand up from a wheat field. They just rose up like a poem. I observed to see if they needed help, yet they were cheerfully waving at us. I held a thumbs up and they signaled back. I got in the car with Jay and we got the hell out of there. Was it just a good father and uncle playing innocent games with their two kids? Was I being nosy and blowing things out of proportion? To this day, I bear an uneasy guilt, anxiety for those kids. I never thought to write about this story. Jay and I still reminisce on it. I'll never forget the moment we first came upon the childish man. My friend and I were walking our dogs where the old sanitarium used to be. Now it is a wooded area on the edge of town. It always felt a little creepy to me. My Roddy Lab mix, Susie Q, always wanted to take this certain path, but it was usually swampy, so I wouldn't let her. One day in the fall it dried up, so this time I let her go and followed. We found bed sheets made into a noose hanging from a tree. It looked really creepy. I took a picture of it. There was also a rotting mattress and garbage strewn about. Very weird vibe there, and I did not like it at all. Fast forward to the following summer. Again, my friend and I were walking the dogs. When we came to the fork in the path where Susie Q always wanted to go, I heard voices. It was that of an old man, 60s or so. His voice sounded rather gravelly, with two young girls around 10 years old. They were on the path but turned back going deeper into the woods, to the place where I saw the noose. I stopped and wondered if I should do something. It just felt wrong. My friend told me to forget it and kept walking. As I stood there wrestling with my conscience and wondering if I should call the cops because it seemed inappropriate, I heard rustling noises in the bushes behind me. Turning, I saw a young girl about 11 or 12. She had lots of freckles and stringy red hair that hung to her shoulders. Her head was down and she was looking at me through her bangs. She was wearing a red striped t-shirt, jeans, and runners. Her hands hung by her sides in fists, and that was when I noticed she had a red Victoria Knox knife in her right hand with the blade out. She just kept walking toward me with this weird look, not saying anything. I thought to myself, gee, am I gonna have to fight a little girl? One with a freaking knife? Just then, Susie Q came bounding back with the other dog, Dory, and the little girl stepped backwards back into the bush without taking her eyes off of me until she disappeared into the foliage. I caught up with my friend, moving rather quickly, and I told him what had happened. He agreed it was freaking weird and we headed back home, but I still think about that to this day and wonder what the hell it was all about. This occurred around 1999 to 2000. My best friend and I were avid outdoor adventurers and amateur pot growers. We would frequently find secluded places in the woods that allowed for ample light and shade for plants to grow and that would not allow them to be easily found. One particular day we went to an annex of trails located near a New Jersey State Park trail system. The trails weren't in the park, but I had hiked them before and knew that they weren't that frequented. We had gone out that day with our seeds partially sprouted in moist paper towels. We parked the car at the trailhead and started hiking in. We covered a mile or so and then ventured off the trail into the woods. We found a clearing, planted the seeds, and tied a few barely visible ribbons off to mark the weight of the plant spot to check them in the future. My friend and I got back on the trail and started walking back to the car, when my friend noticed a man in the other direction just staring at us. He was probably in his 30s or 40s, bald head, normal clothes. We didn't think anything of it for the most part, but we definitely kept looking back as anyone would when someone is behind them in the woods. We saw that he was walking 60 plus or so feet behind us. It seemed weird, but it was probably more so due to us having anxiety that we planted seeds. We picked up the pace, but the man also seemed to pick up the pace as we weren't gaining any distance. At one point, we decided to just get off the trail and let him pass. We turned off the trail and walked into a thicket of sticker bushes, which I remember vividly getting shredded on. We got deeper into the woods and heard cursing. When we turned around, the man was coming through and we entered. It was at that moment we actually became scared. Mind you, we were two young, strong 19-year-olds, but a man following you into the woods is damn creepy. We made kind of a U maneuver to outflank him and came out of the woods a bit further down the trail. Once on the trail, we ran. As we were running, there was a fork in the trail and my friend went right and I went left. I realized my mistake as my buddy was going down the correct path and I wasn't. So I turned around and started running back towards the fork to follow my friend. As I was running towards the direction we came from to get to the fork, I could see the man running towards me down the trail. He was a distance away, but not far enough in my eyes. Survival mode kicked in and I ran as hard as I could. I caught up to my friend who was walking at that point. I screamed, "He's after us," and we both booked it all the way to the car. We got in the car shaking and out of breath. We backed up and started to get out of the parking lot when the man appeared at the trailhead. He stopped there and just stared at us as we drove away. I always wondered what that was all about. Did he want to kill a couple of 19-year-olds? Was he also doing something illegal in those woods and wanted us gone? My buddy and I still laugh and talk about that day 22 years ago.